Imagine moving $10,000 into your Fidelity account. The money shows up. You can see it. You may even be able to invest it. But then rent is due. You try to move the money out, and you can't. For some Fidelity customers, that wait has stretched far longer than they expected. In reported cases, more than 2 weeks. And here's the part that most people miss. The way you transfer your money can make a huge difference. So before you move your paycheck, emergency fund, or entire bank balance into a Fidelity Cash Management Account, there are 3 things you need to understand. The second one is especially important because it explains how money can be sitting in your account while still being unavailable to you. Let's start with what makes this so confusing. Imagine you initiate a transfer into Fidelity. A few days later, you log in. The balance is there. Everything looks normal. You might reasonably think, great, my money arrived. But there's a critical distinction hiding underneath that balance. Fidelity can show different amounts for cash available to trade and cash available to withdraw. And those are not always the same number. That's the first thing almost everyone needs to understand. Available to trade does not necessarily mean available to withdraw. Your transfer may reach a point where Fidelity allows some trading activity, while the funds are still going through the process required before they can be withdrawn or transferred elsewhere. And that's where people can get caught off guard. Because if that money is your investment cash, maybe waiting isn't a disaster. But if it's your rent money, your mortgage payment, your emergency fund, or the account paying your credit cards next week, the exact same hold suddenly becomes a serious cash flow problem. And this brings us to the most important question. Why does this happen in the first place? Here's the key idea. Not every bank transfer works the same way. There are 3 common routes you need to understand. Think of them as 3 doors into Fidelity. The first method is an electronic funds transfer initiated from Fidelity. In simple terms, Fidelity asks your bank for the money. This is incredibly convenient. But convenient does not necessarily mean immediately withdrawable. Depending on the transfer and account circumstances, funds can be subject to processing and hold periods before they're available to withdraw. And remember the distinction from a moment ago. The money may become available for certain trading activity before it becomes available for withdrawal. That tiny distinction can create a very expensive misunderstanding if you need the cash immediately. But now look at the second option, because this changes the situation. Instead of asking Fidelity to pull the money, you initiate the transfer from your bank. In other words, your bank sends the money to Fidelity. It sounds almost identical, but operationally, it isn't necessarily the same process. And that's why one of the biggest mistakes you can make is assuming that an electronic transfer is the same no matter where you start it. It can matter. If access time is important, don't just ask, can I transfer money to Fidelity? Ask, how am I transferring it? Because the problem isn't only where you move your money. It's how you move it. And then there's the third option. A bank wire is designed for moving money directly between financial institutions. When timing is critical, this is one of the methods worth investigating. Fidelity says incoming bank wires are not subject to its normal hold period after they're received. But there's a catch. Fidelity may not charge you to receive the wire, but your sending bank may charge a wire fee. So you're making a trade-off. Potential fee versus speed and access. If you're transferring money you won't need for months, paying for speed may make no sense. But if you're moving $20,000 that needs to be available for a house closing, rent, or another time-sensitive payment, that calculation looks very different. Which brings us to something even more important than choosing the transfer method. Here's the rule I would remember. Never test a new financial setup with money you cannot afford to temporarily lose access to. That means your first large transfer probably should not be your entire emergency fund, next month's mortgage, next week's rent, your full paycheck, or the money covering every autopay in your life. Instead, start by understanding how the system works. A small initial transfer can help you verify whether the bank is properly linked, whether the transfer arrived, where you can see the expected availability, and how the process actually appears inside your account. But here's another critical detail. Don't assume that because a small transfer cleared quickly, a much larger transfer will behave exactly the same way. Transfer amount and other circumstances can affect how a transaction is handled. So a small test proves that the pipeline works. It does not guarantee the timing of every future transfer. That's a subtle difference, but it's an important one. Now let's solve the bigger problem. Suppose you really do want to use a Fidelity Cash Management Account as a major part of your financial system. Maybe you want fewer accounts. Maybe you like having investing and cash management together. Maybe you're trying to make idle cash work harder. Fine. But don't move everything on Monday and close your old checking account on Tuesday. Instead, use what I call the 30-day banking bridge. For roughly one full billing cycle, let the old and new systems overlap. First, keep your old bank active. Leave enough money there to cover your rent or mortgage, credit card autopay, utilities, insurance, subscriptions, and any important automatic withdrawals. The goal is simple. Nothing breaks while you're testing the new system. Next, test the new account. Make an initial transfer. Watch what happens. Don't just look at the total balance. Check the number that actually matters. Cash available to withdraw. And understand when your funds become usable. Verify your linked accounts. And if something looks unclear, stop before transferring more. Then move your money in stages. Once you're comfortable with the process, move another portion, then another. There's usually no prize for moving your entire financial life in one transaction. And there's one major advantage to doing this gradually. You keep options. If something gets delayed, your rent still gets paid. Your credit card still gets paid. Your lights stay on. Your financial system keeps working. That's what good cash management is supposed to do. And don't move your autopay too early. This is the part people often rush. Your money successfully arriving at Fidelity once does not automatically mean every part of your financial system has been tested. Before shutting down your old checking account, verify your direct deposit, transfers, bill payments, ATM or debit access if you use them, recurring payments, and any external accounts connected to your old bank. Only after the system works through a normal billing cycle should you consider completing the transition. So which transfer method should you use? Here's the simple decision framework. If you need the money urgently, don't experiment with a large transfer. Verify the transfer method and expected availability before moving the money. A wire may be worth considering when speed is critical. If you need the money soon, understand the difference between initiating the transfer from Fidelity and sending it from your bank. Don't assume the two routes behave identically. If this is long-term cash, a temporary hold may matter much less, but you should still know when the money becomes withdrawable. And if you're moving your entire banking setup, don't do it all at once. Use the 30-day banking bridge. Now, does all of this mean a Fidelity Cash Management Account is bad? No, and this is important. This isn't an argument that Fidelity Cash Management Accounts are bad. For the right person, they can be extremely useful. The mistake is assuming that moving money into a brokerage-based cash management system will always behave exactly like moving money between the checking accounts you've used for years. Different systems can have different rules. And the dangerous assumption is this: if I can see the money, I can use the money. Not necessarily. Instead, look for the number that matters: cash available to withdraw. That one distinction can save you from a very stressful surprise. So before moving a large amount of money into Fidelity, run this quick checklist. Number 1. Is any of this money needed for rent, mortgage, bills, or emergencies? If yes, don't risk all of it in one transfer. Number 2. Am I pulling the money from Fidelity, pushing it from my bank, or using a wire? Know the route. Number 3. When does Fidelity estimate the money will actually be available to withdraw? Don't confuse the account balance with withdrawal availability. Number 4. Do I have enough money somewhere else to survive a delay? And finally, number 5. Have I kept my old account active long enough to verify that the new system actually works? If you can answer all 5, you're in a much stronger position. So go back to that $10,000 from the beginning. If it's sitting in your bank right now, and you're thinking about moving the entire balance into Fidelity tomorrow, don't rush it. Understand the transfer route. Know the difference between money that's available to trade and money that's available to withdraw. Keep a financial bridge. And most importantly, never test a new cash management system with money you absolutely need next week. Because the goal isn't just getting a better yield. The goal is having your money available when your real life needs it. And I want to turn the comments under this video into something actually useful. If you've experienced a Fidelity transfer hold, comment with 3 things: how you transferred the money, whether Fidelity pulled it, your bank sent it, you used a wire, or you deposited a check, roughly how much you transferred, and how long it took before the money became available to withdraw. Not just when it appeared in the account, when you could actually withdraw it. That distinction matters. And if enough people share their experiences, we may be able to see some very interesting patterns. Subscribe if you want practical, personal finance breakdowns like this, especially the details that can cost you money when nobody explains them clearly.